this episode, we're going to concentrate on the power steering connector for the Attribution and the power steering rack, which I've already done some pre-install some stuff. And also, since the last episode of getting the drivetrain in, I've also done a little bit of wiring install, including mounting the PCM here. So let's do that. Let's show you what I've done already for getting the power steering connected, and then we're going to move on to the next system. So I went ahead and mounted the cooler. The stock cooler doesn't quite fit perfectly. What you have to do is kind of twist this thing. It's facing down. You twist it this way, it can fit. You rivet it right there, comes across. You got to move this bracket out so you can, remember, you got to cut it short too. You rivet it there, so it's in place. The radiator mounts kind of hard to see right here, so it's behind the radiator. Good spot for it. Next up is trying to get these OEM lines to fit to go to the power rack. So what I did is I've started at the reservoir, got it mounted, and this is the reservoir. I'll put in a link that I got this one from American Muscle. Took a while to get it because they're a little bit behind on stock, but the connection of it from the reservoir up to the hydro booster, and then the other connection goes over to the cooler that I just installed. So that's taking a little bit of back and forth on bending these lines to get them in and around the steering column. So I'll show you what I've done there. So the stock line coming from the reservoir has where it goes out to the hydro booster and up to the cooler. It's hitting the steering column. I don't like that. So what I'm having to do is bend it down here so I can get it, and when it's installed, I can mount it up against the side here so it's not touching the steering column. So I'll show you how I bent it. So I don't have a tube bender big enough to do it, so I'm having to do it a little bit at a time with the vise here, but these two were in line a little bit, so I've twisted this one around because, again, I got that drive shaft coming through here, the steering column. So that steering shaft's coming through here and I don't want it hitting right here. So I've got to get this flat enough against that F panel where I can where it comes to the reservoir attached like that, so the steering shaft clears. So that's what I'm going to do now. I need to bend this down more. And that's what you do in small increments so you don't kink it. And now I'll check the test fit. This really is just trial and error to get it to fit like you want it to and where you want the lines to run. Need this to be straight down. Okay, that's the reservoir installed. We got it installed back to the hydro booster and the cooler installed and piped up and plumbed. Now we got to hook up the power lines to the power rack, which can be fun because they're not bent to work on a factory 5 Cobra. So now, same process. We really want to run them on the inside of the F panel here because there's a panel that goes here once you put the car together. So that's next. Bend and fit these things to get into the power rack. Well, I was doing some test fitting before I started filming without doing any bends, and I start here at the rack and just figure out how it wants to go from here because this is obviously the tightest fit. And honestly, this will work, and I haven't bent a single one of them. The larger fitting one goes up and around, comes through here underneath the brake master cylinder, and then they bend to fit nicely, so it looks nice here. The only thing I'm concerned about is this lower, smaller fitting. I've got all this extra. But what I'm going to do is probably the radiator, which mounts here, which clears it. So I think we're good shape here without having to bend any of this. I think I'll tighten these down and just kind of go through, check all the fittings. That might be it for this short episode. So we got the power rack hooked up to the booster and didn't really take a lot of effort there doing the main lines. I thought it'd be a little more work. Let's go ahead and hook up the clutch cable in this episode, which I've got this clutch cable kit that came from me with MTS Auto Salvage. If you remember, they sold me that Tranzilla. So there's a few things we're not going to need on here, like the throw plate, but we'll install this next. It's a pretty simple installation. Kind of follows along with going through this hole, down by the header, and then back through to the transmission. It'd be nice if I had my headers in, but I don't have those from Factory 5. I do believe I am going to install this firewall adjustable system. So the stock Mustang system comes with this plastic clip deal and these springs, and that's how you adjust the tension really with a clutch cable. And I remember having a problem with my last Cobra that a piece of this broke off. So you had to reach up in here and make sure it was at its full maximum click the mount for it to have the right tension. You don't need that with this system. You replace all this plastic with this nice new aluminum deal, and then you adjust the cable here using this firewall adjuster. You also have an adjustment down at the transmission. So what we'll do is we're going to pull this plastic piece off. We don't need the springs. We'll install this, run the clutch cable through it, and down around to the transmission. Sounds simple, don't it? Wish I had done this before I put the pedal box in. It would have been much, much, much easier. There's a little bit of fight coming off. So to replace the spring that was inside here, the kit comes with 4 washers. Put those pins back in, which is probably going to be aggravating as cuss. I dropped the other one down. I got to go underneath and get it. Now this is your stock mount into your firewall. There's these 4 little knobs that fits down over and pop it off. So this would have been, we're not using the cable adjuster, we would have used this instead, like that. So what we'll do is, in order to fit into the firewall adjustment thing, we got to file these off so it fits in there. Okay, nice and filed away. This now fitting here. And then there's a set screw you put in there. Let's go ahead and mount the plate to the firewall so we can attach everything. Got this plate installed, a little more difficult than it should have been because this is like reinforced steel here that Factory 5 put in. And now let's screw it in. Probably helps the weight to put the cable in, but I didn't do that. Now we're gonna route the cable. There we go. Clutch all installed and feels pretty tight. I think that's got it for this episode. Got the clutch in, got the power rack hooked up. And next we got to do the accelerator cable and the cooling, which is including the radiator. Real quick to wrap up this episode as well as take care of the accelerator cable. It's real simple. Take your fender washer, get you a slot in it so you can fit it over the cable, like so. Now you can tighten it down and then drill you a little hole. Then it'll fit here, nice and pretty. And we will rivet it to this bracket so it won't go anywhere. Real simple, straightforward, accelerator cable complete. You know, we're trying to get a baseball game.